that first 2 weeks I had, I think, 38 deals up here, doable. And I made my second biweekly check was around 17K. So it was
Okay.
it was crazy.
Nuts. Brady, what's up, my man?
What's up, Alec? How are you?
Dude, welcome in. So, your story is awesome. I can't wait to get into it. It's a little bit more unique of a story in the sense of you went through, from what I understand, sort of a trial tribulation, and then that kind of, led you to royalty in the end. And you've absolutely destroyed. So, I'd love to talk about both of those because anybody who's maybe in college athletics, which we get a lot of people that maybe played sports or are considering leaving it. But I want your story to kind of resonate with those people that maybe were in that situation. So we'll break this down piece by piece. So let's start with like where you were at. What was your circumstance right before you found royalty or maybe when you found it? Kind of explain that story for us.
Yeah. So it actually starts back my sophomore year of college, which was 2023, to believe it or not. I saw like the first ad, I think it was Instagram of the company, didn't really know too much of it and kind of kept scrolling. And then, a couple months went by and I saw another one and, I filled out the application link and it's like, oh, maybe I'll see what this is all about, see if if this is real. And they got back to me, I think it was May 2024. And I had a call with Nick Dockman, and he was saying how they're really kind of only looking for full-time employees. And I was telling him, in college, kind of comfortable there, playing a sport, but, I'm more than happy to come and work for a summer or something. And, he just said it wasn't going to be the right fit. And they're, looking for full-time employees. So I kind of just was like, all right, whatever. And then my junior year started last year, and junior year, you're obviously looking for, internships, stuff like that. They're starting to get into the workforce. It's starting to hit you. Realities come in. School's ending pretty soon. You only get 2 years left. So I was just kind of scrambling all fall to find what I wanted to do. I still really didn't have a specific major. I was sitting in my classes, just like zoning out, just like, what am I learning about? What am I like paying a lot of money to learn? Track was the one thing that kind of kept me going and kept me in school, that I mostly enjoyed being there because of track and the people I was around on the track team. But, I thought, I could do something more with my life and try something else. I think there was, I was like, why is this the norm? Why is going to school the norm? I feel like there's got to be something else. So I saw another ad with royalty. At that point, I'd been in the system for over like a year now. And I think it was, I talked to Cole a little bit on DM, and then Jake Lutz, a previous employee of the company. And Jake got me in contact with Christian Big Country. And ever since, I got in contact with him, it was last spring. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm finishing up my junior year. I'd really like to come out and just see what this is all about after, a year and a half of being on the fence and not taking the leap. I finally did. And the only thing I regret is not, joining the team sooner.
Yeah, we hear that so often. I'm sure
Yep.
you've probably heard that from others, which, completely makes sense. Like, look, you see someone making, I mean, it's funny. We had a comment on one of our ads that said something like they were flexing like how much they made in some other industry. And I was like, dude, what's hard for us is like some of the numbers, we can't even post them because it's just so unbelievable
Yep.
that it's far from reality for most people. So even though what he was flexing was cool and I was like, hey, that's great, it doesn't even compare to what some of the reps make. So it does take time to understand it. And so as much as it'd be nice to start sooner, you made it here. That's what matters. But I think that's a very resonating story, right? There's a lot of people we talk to that are in college. College is in a weird stage right now where there's no guarantee you're going to make your money back immediately, right? Like there was a time when that existed. Right now isn't necessarily. But I think it's awesome that they ended up here. So it took a few times of seeing our stuff, talking to some people, building
Yep.
that trust. And I would consider you, and I don't know how you did track for all of college, or I know you got injured as well.
Yeah, I got injured my end of my sophomore year, tore my Achilles, so that put me out for a while. And during that time, that recovery time, I kind of, got to think about what I was really doing with my life, because it kind of, took me off from track. So I was,
Yeah.
focused on, school and, what I wanted to do career wise. And that time really helped me, figure out some things and kind of grow as a person, and a serious injury like that. And I'm working my way back to being
Here,
fully
give me
healthy,
1 second.
but
I think my camera froze. 1 second. Let's see what happened.
very good.
All right.
There we go.
I did want to ask a follow up on that. So most of the time when we talk to college athletes, like school or sports is their number one focus. Now, knowing what you know now about life outside of school, like I guess the question is, at the time, did you think track was one of the most important things to you? And how has that changed now, knowing that your professional life sort of supersedes that?
Yeah, there was definitely, a time when, I was graduating high school and I was going to run Division 1 track. That was definitely, my main focus. I didn't really have too many other focuses. Obviously, college is only 4 years. I didn't have any, I'm not good enough to go pro in track, so I didn't really have any aspirations of that, but it was definitely, my main focus, just lifting for it, running, like practicing, just preparing for meets and stuff like that. Being Division 1, obviously that's the standard is held high. And I think
Yeah.
that kind of resonates with royalty. It's almost like a game, like you can
Yeah,
treat it like a
absolutely.
sport. And that's what I love so much about this company. It's very similar to my first passion, which is sports.
Yeah.
And now I can use that to
Make
help me,
money.
yeah, make money
A
and
lot
help
of money.
within royalty.
So maybe someone who's right now in the phase where they're putting sports first, which I totally understand how, especially if their scholarship tied to it. How would you describe like, hey, maybe I was in this position where I thought sports was first, but what I realized is that it's worth considering other options, or whether or not you would consider that or recommend that, I should say, for someone like, let's say I'm a football athlete right now, and I'm like, hey, I like the idea of royalty, I believe it, but I kind of want to wait because right now I'm focused on sports. What would you say to that person? Would you say continue on that path, or would you say, hey, consider this because it's going to put you farther ahead?
I think there's a way, I think there's a way you can do both. I think, obviously football, it's a demanding sport, but you have some downtime, after the season. So maybe come out for a couple months, see what it's like, experiment with it. But no, like football is only going to last until you graduate unless you, get drafted or, something like
Yeah.
that. So if you can accept that reality that you might not make it to that next level, venture off to a different route and try something new. But I think the biggest thing is maybe use the network you've built within like your sport or whatever you do to grow as a person and connect with people that are like-minded. And I think that's what royalty has to offer. So it's definitely a great opportunity if you are someone that, isn't playing a sport and isn't really sure what the next step is.
Yeah. Okay, let's wow them with some numbers. So I want to hear, you can kind of decide what to tell, but you can do best month, best week. Like, talk to me about some of your highlights. I know you were just at quarterly, so you have some cool stuff, and I've heard about you. So tell me a little bit about what that is.
Yeah. So obviously I came out, like I said, June. It was like beginning of June, and I worked a week in New York and, did pretty well. It was UCB, so fairly easy to get deals. But then we went up to Maine, and, this market up in Maine is crazy. The payout is insane. So that first 2 weeks I had, I think, 38 deals up here, doable. And I made my second biweekly check was around 17K. So it was
Okay,
it was crazy.
nuts. So let's put this in perspective. If someone out there is an athlete that's actually willing to put in the work, you could go from, and this is, over the summer, like you were saying, you don't have to like ditch everything. In 2 weeks, it is possible. I'm not going to say it's guaranteed by any means. It is possible to make $17,000. And you're not the only one that has that kind of like that. That's a pretty astronomical difference of what most people do. But $17,000 in 2 weeks, like that is life-changing trajectory.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. I saw it hit my invoice and hit my bank, and my mom was freaking out, this and that. And
Yeah. Imagine it
yeah,
was 1,700 and they just,
yeah, but yeah, it's real. Like, you know what I mean? It's attainable. And I think what drove me was being in sports, coming from sports. I was like, this, I can treat this like a game almost. Like I can get paid for how hard I work instead of, by getting paid by what the freaking clock says. So,
absolutely,
uh,
100%. Your
it,
own
it,
effort, just like the meritocracy of sports, you become a starter
exactly.
by hustling.
Yeah.
And luckily, you don't have to be tall or anything to
No,
do
no,
what you do.
no.
Yeah.
I'm not tall
There's no
enough.
genetic, preference. But talk to me about your family. So like, what did you said your mom got excited. What did she think about it before you went out?
She honestly just thought it was some like sales internship, and that's kind of what I told her and my dad. I was saying, I have this sales internship, traveling sales reps. I told them we were starting in New York. I'm from Mass, so it wasn't like I was flying across the country. I luckily was only 4.5 hours away, and they accepted it. They know I'm an adult now. I make my own decisions. Obviously, they had their skepticism. They asked their questions, but I laid it out for them, and at the end of the day, they trust me and I trust them. So it was a pretty smooth transition to come out here.
I love it. What have you been able to do? I mean, have you done anything for them since you've come out and made the money?
I've almost paid off all my student debt, and they were taking out a lot of loans for me and helping me out with that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this opportunity to basically pay off all my student debt, which is insane. I would never would have imagined I would be graduating college debt free. So it's crazy.
Dude, that is so awesome. What do they think? Like, have they commented
They're
on that?
Yeah, they're just ecstatic. They're happy for me, and they're glad, I made that jump and that risk. And, from going to Nashville for quarterly to, all the traveling I've done, they're just, wicked happy for me.
That's awesome.
they see the difference. They know I've kind of grown as a person. So
That's awesome. So you obviously came from a team environment, highly competitive. How does that compare to what you see at Royalty?
it's very similar, man. I mean, obviously you got a leaderboard each week, who's doing the best, who's getting sales, this and that. It pushes you every day to, I want to be the best. I want to, get the most deals. And then you have trainers that are giving you incentives each week. So you have something to like look forward to or push for. Very similar to sports, it's a similar environment. We're going on runs, we're going to the gym, going in cold plunges, doing stuff to better ourselves physically and, obviously financially. So it's awesome, man.
That's great. And like on a daily basis, like how close are you? Whose house are you in right now? Or are you the trainer for it?
No, so I'm still with Christian. I'm in country
Oh,
with him up
sweet.
in Maine still. We have a sweet Airbnb very close to the water, and the weather up here has been amazing.
Yeah,
So
well, that's a good time
can't
for me.
complain.
How close are you with like your teammates that you're knocking with?
Man, I love everyone on this team. People come in and out, but the core foundation of this team, I love the guys. I actually recently just went out to Montana and Seattle with a few of the guys that I met from being on the team. So I've already traveled with these guys. I've, worked hard with them and made very long lasting friendships that I know, I can go to these
Yeah.
guys later on in life and they're there for me and I'm there for them.
It's kind of funny to go travel with, it's a different dynamic, right? If you go travel with college friends or teammates, like there's always that financial strain, but when you're with people that are knocking, you're like, dude, come on, we can go to the
Exactly.
steakhouse.
Yeah.
Like I know we can. Yeah.
Yep. That's definitely been something I've noticed, which is awesome.
A lot more freedom. Every time we're at the
Yep.
quarterly, it's so funny. I love being around it because it's like, dude, and
Yep.
and you can easily lose perspective. I think something that's not really talked about a lot that I try to emphasize is, especially at the quarterly, you'll see people throw around numbers like 10, 15, $20,000 a month, and even more if they're like doing recruiting or whatever. And those numbers sort of become, I'd like to think of it as a standard, but also like the power of that number gets a little diluted because everybody's hitting those and everybody's talking about them. Like a $17,000 in 2 weeks, like it's an outrageous number. And it's really cool to be around such a top tier talent that you're like, man, these guys are all making that. Like this is not
Yep.
an abnormal thing in this room. It's sort of like the standard, which I think is a really cool environment.
Yeah, no, that's funny you mentioned that because when I got to quarterly, I remember we were sitting in the Airbnb and I overheard someone was like, "Who was the kid that got that 17 grand, biweekly check?" And I was like, "That's me, man."
Yeah.
And then yeah, we just talked about the numbers and yeah, I made so many connections from going on that trip, so that was awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. What I like is like there's a lot of young talent that's emerging and they're gonna go do amazing things. And it's sort of like, that random guy I follow on YouTube went to the Naval Academy and a long time ago. Now he has all these connections that came from it. I feel like it's a very similar group where he's
Yeah,
driven and hungry and they're gonna go accomplish things. And now you met them at the early stages and you get to build and have those relationships forever on
yeah.
whatever they end up doing. And plus you might just be sitting next to someone who's built a company or done random things. Like it's just a really cool room. Do you talk to old friends about it? Like does anybody know kind of what you do or are you more
Yeah,
secretive?
no, I've definitely mentioned it to a couple of my school friends and then hometown friends.
What do they think?
Oh, I've let them. I mean, they're just like, "What are you doing? Like, how are you making this kind of money, or how what is this? What is this job you're in?" And I just, I'm straightforward with them. I'm letting them know what it's a real thing. It's you got to put in the work. It's not, you don't flip a switch and you make all this money. You gotta actually put in the work,
Yep.
but it's real and it's attainable for I think anyone, like, especially guys that are entering that phase where you just graduated high school or even just finished college and you can't find a job because this market is screwed up or
Yeah.
you just finished up your sport and that's kind of all you focused on and you're like shit, what's next?
Yeah.
So it's definitely attainable for really anyone.
You ever buy dinners or anything? Pick up
I haven't
tab?
no, I haven't bought like any of my boys' dinners, but they're like I came back to school like last weekend just to kind of see the guys and check out my place, and they're like, why don't you pay for this and that? You've been making all this money, so I was like, yeah, I don't even see it. It goes all towards my debt.
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of the worst of like,
but
yeah.
it is what it is.
It's cool though that you have that earning potential. That's awesome. And
Yeah,
hopefully, they see it too. And the good thing about royalty is it's not necessarily intended for you to be there forever. You can be. I mean, you got guys like Holden that have in I think maybe 2 years has gone from rep himself to upper management, and he'll
yeah,
be probably one of the youngest equity partners that you can like. He's 21, I think, right now.
it's
So like,
great.
yeah, I mean, and dude, you said you're 22. That like that if that's you at 24, it's so far ahead of 24-year-olds
Exactly.
anywhere in any
Yeah.
other companies. So I think it's meant for sort of like a business education while you're getting paid, but
Hmm.
also there is a trajectory that you can do as well. So
Yeah.
it's a really cool thing where people can come out for a summer and leave with lifelong skills, or you can stay for 2 years and become, a junior business
Yeah,
owner.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Any
think,
final, or go ahead. I mean, cut you off.
no, I was gonna say, I think money aside, like just the network alone I've built from being in this company is insane. I've always valued, just meeting people, networking, and that, they say, your network is your net worth. So I think that alone has been something I'm definitely going to take out of this opportunity and, use that network moving forward within my,
Yeah.
career.
Yeah, and something about getting a 17 grand check in 2 weeks changes what you think you're capable of by far.
Yeah.
Like money just isn't this like someone getting like 7 grand
No.
salary, like it's like
Yeah.
not the same. Not the
Mhm.
same. Any final thoughts? What else would you say to people that are maybe like watching this and they really resonate with your story, maybe want to make a change for themselves? Like what kind of words of wisdom would you give them?
I think it just comes down, make the jump. Don't just sit there and just think about it. Just make it, take action. The longer you wait, obviously the longer, you're gonna prolong that journey you're ready to go on it. So just kind of just make the jump,
I love it. Oh, I'm going to ask you a hard question. You're welcome to think about it.
Yeah.
If you could summarize royalty in one sentence, what would it be?
I'll say one of the most insane opportunities to kind of fulfill the person you want to be.
I like that.
I like it.
I like that. Becoming the person
Yeah.
you want to be.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Dude, thank you so much for coming on here. Hopefully at quarterly we can maybe do a follow-up or something.
Yeah,
Just come here. I
definitely.
love getting progressive interviews. So, I mean, dude, you started in June. It's now September. We're talking 3 months here. We're not talking like,
Like,
oh, it's a 2 year sales rep. The only wins we have are people that have been around for like, it's just
yeah,
not that case.
can happen,
Yeah. And I'm sure like starting now is even easier than when you started because you just continuously
Oh, yeah.
improve. So
Yeah.
awesome, man. I appreciate you. Where can people find you in case they're curious to talk to you about this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram. I've been pretty active on LinkedIn as well. My username, just my name, Brady Trask. My Instagram handle might be Brady Trask 11, but just any social medias, Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn
Let's
is a big
go.
thing within
Yep.
college people that I was just, posting on that, and so check it out. It's
Love it.
real.
There you have it. All right. Balls in y'all's court. If you have questions, hit him up. I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Of course. Thanks, Alec.